everyone, welcome. Happy Saturday. We made it. Hope everyone is doing okay today. I'm doing okay. Stayed up until about 1 playing Solasta. I finished my first playthrough of the game last week, and I started a new playthrough with different characters. Solasta is an amazing rendition of the Dungeons and Dragons 5e rule set. And so I finished that. Good story, great rules, great implementation of the rules. I finished my first playthrough with a fairly balanced party. So I tried something very challenging. I tried doing a playthrough with two sorcerers and 2 wizards, which I knew was going to be highly problematic. But I was hoping if I had enough spells, I could, compensate for the issues with that, like AC not being as high, low hit points and that sort of stuff, but they were too much of a glass cannon, so I dropped that playthrough. And I went kind of the other direction, because that was pretty much all elves, and I created a new group, all dwarves. 3 fighters, and a cleric. Now, obviously, that's a lot of armor, a lot of hit points. That'll be a great job with dealing with a lot of that, and the cleric will help keep them up, although of course we lack the arcane support, which could be problematic just for the sheer mass damage of fireball and things like that. So so fights will go longer, but we'll see how that goes, and also increase the difficulty of the game by 1 to try that out. I don't know what that will do for the difficulty of the game, but I did that for my playthrough, so I stayed up till 1 o'clock doing that. I don't know, I'm at 3rd level, close to 4th, I think, or something like that. I don't know. But, so that's what I did last night. Got to bed at 1. The wife woke me up at 8:30. Before she had to go to work. But, super tired. But, I went for my walk, took my shower. I got some Mountain Dew in me to keep me going. So, doing okay. I am doing okay. How's everyone's weekend going so far? Yeah, I was scrambling getting started today. I started right on time, and I got through my my posts and stuff like that. But I just wanted something more, so I spent a bunch more of my hour prep time finding more stuff to go over, and it just I didn't start actually getting everything together, my stream set up until about 10 minutes prior, so I was just scrambling to get going, and got my microphone on the desk, but I started the stream, and then I got everything connected. So I'm awake, I'm here. I hope everyone is doing well. Today we're going to we got some capitalist stuff for a little bit, and then I've got just a shitload of links on climate change. I didn't want to keep doing that, but there's just so much climate change stuff. I know I'm doomer here and stuff like that, but there's that's mostly what's in my feed. Maybe I need to in my Facebook feed and my Twitter feed as well. So that's what we're going to do today. Many questions, comments, suggestions, thoughts before we get started? I know it's been summer. It's been super quiet here on the channel. Thought I'd start with my my blog up here instead of my policies. I always have my policies up here. Anything? Anybody? So quiet. Okay, I'm not going to cover this, but I'm just going to throw this out here for you. I haven't followed this at all, but we've talked about it a little bit here. In the travesty that is Britney Spears' life, here's some good news here. Britney Spears wins right to choose own lawyer in conservatorship case. So that's just a little something in case you're following that. I hope that she wins and she's able to undo all of this bullshit she's had to endure. So that's the thing. All right. Now on to the real stuff. This is article. It's by Tom Hartman. He's kind of a leftist uh, political commentator. He's had a radio show for a very long time, and I think he's been interviewing, or not interviewing, having Bernie Sanders on his podcast or channel for like over a decade or something like that. So that's sort of the area where he sits politically. And this is from June of 2021. I've read through this a little bit. We're gonna go through this, and I have some quibbles with this article, but all in all, it's going to be an important post, I think, to read. You know, we cover anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist stuff, and also climate change stuff here. That's kind of where I tend to focus on. So this is, and I specifically did some searching. I originally searched for biopsychosocial, but because I wanted some articles that would talk about that. I actually did some time searching specifically, but everything that has that word in is pretty much all academic. It's all studies and stuff like that, and I'm not going to sit here and read a fucking study when I can't even finish my my post on daylight savings time because I just can't get through the studies. It's so difficult to read the fucking studies. And then so I did some searching on that. I couldn't find something that was appropriate to bring on here, so I looked at, you know, inequality and psychopathy, and it was hard to find stuff on that sort of a thing. So I did find this. And did I find this one too? No, I found this one was a part of what I was already planning. So I found this one. We'll go through it, and then we'll see what you guys have to say there. And yeah, all right. Let's get started. Psychopath-driven inequality is making our society sick. We will all be better off when we reform our political and business culture to be less psychopath-friendly and more humanity-friendly. Now, this is correct, and this is pretty much the entire focus of my policies, especially my economic policies directly, right? And like he's saying, the fact that our system allows psychopaths to be an intrinsic part of our political and business culture is part of the problem. And that's, of course, when we talk about politics, when we talk about how our world is broken, it always boils down to that. I'll share this again. I know you guys are fucking tired of it. That tension within methods of exchange, right? This is always down to this problem. It's always this, right? Why are people psychopaths? Because of the tension within methods of exchange. This explains the psychopathy problem, why they exist, why they're there, and in a sense, it also tells us how to solve the problem, because we'll understand the problem. All right. Inequality is literally killing us, both individually and as a society, and its two main drivers are monopolistic business behavior and greedy CEOs and politicians. Both are a result of psychopaths taking over politics and business. Okay. Again, like we talk about it here, the monopolistic business behavior and greedy CEOs and politicians, those are a biopsychosocial result of the tension within methods of exchange. It's an inherent feature of monetary systems. Now, he's not attributing this correctly necessarily. I mean, he's talking about it on a level. You should take it a level lower and talk about how money inherently creates this problem, right? But yes, CEOs, politicians, psychopaths. Yes. Decades ago, when I was doing international relief work, I visited a school for Aboriginal children way up northeast near Cairns, Australia, in a little town called Lockhart River. One of the teachers there, a white guy who'd grown up in Sydney, was my guide around the place, told me a story of an amazing life-changing revelation he had the first week he was teaching at the school. He was supervising after-school activities, and a large group of kids formed into two teams and were playing soccer. The game's score went back and forth with the two teams, fairly evenly matched, taking turns with who was ahead. They played for about an hour, he told me, as I recall, and then they stopped. They said the game was over, and I couldn't figure out why. The revelation for him came when they told him that by their rules, the game was over when both teams had achieved the same number of points, when things were even. This is how things were were across much of humanity before the psychopaths took over. Okay, so that is essentially correct. So yeah, humankind here, hopeful history. Okay, this looks interesting. So, right, and I talk about that here, right? Prior to the Neolithic Revolution, the rise of agrarianism, prior to that we were hunter-gatherers, and that psychopathy wasn't there because we had high levels of abundance, low scarcity, right? Because they were nomadic, they're hunter-gatherers, they always had what they wanted, and they found it from the land. Once we shifted to agrarianism, that fucked up everything. Sure, it's both the single best and the single worst technological innovation we have had, because it gave us the world today and it gave us the world we have today, right? So, right, and now I'm wondering when they're going to attribute that psychopaths took over, right? I'm pretty sure they're not going to put it at the start of agrarianism, which brought inequality itself and competition and all that sort of stuff, because that's really where it started. All right, humans are wired for cooperation and empathy. Yes, and I talk about that. That's a part of our evolutionary psychology from our hunter-gatherer time, right? We're nomadic, egalitarian, and mostly matriarchal in our societal structures. And the Neolithic Revolution, agrarianism changed all of that, and then that's primarily why we have a lot of our problems societally, is because the world we have today is an abject rejection of those evolutionary values: cooperation, egalitarianism, right? All right, humans are wired for cooperation and empathy. These are among the highest values in societies that predate the agricultural revolution and in cultures today who still remember their roots in such ancient societies. All right, you can find that in indigenous cultures and that sort of a thing as well. That cooperative sort of culture. The advent of agriculture, 7,000 years ago. Okay, I actually looked this up before we started. Scientists have it at about 10,000 years or later, and that's 10 to 12,000 years about where agrarianism started and things started to change. About 10,000 years ago, which is where we really start to see the big, the larger settlements and cities start to form by virtue of agriculture. So that's not quite correct, but close enough for government work, I guess. However, it produced seasonal bursts of food from harvests, often followed by long, hungry winters. This gave some people, the psychopaths, the ability to, as Daniel Quinn wrote so eloquently in his book Ishmael, lock up the food. It was the original sin of greed, the forbidden fruit of the garden, something that's considered a crime or a mental illness in older cultures. So this is, I would call this false attribution. It's not that psychopaths existed and they were just all of a sudden given the ability to take control. The sociopathy and psychopathy is psychopathy present in a society is a biopsychosocial result of scarcity and inequality, right? Because our humanity went from hunter-gatherers with low scarcity, high abundance, to high scarcity, and that's where the brain damage starts. The psychopathy, the sociopathy is a result of scarcity. That's where it starts. That's where everything goes to hell. Again, it's not that psychopaths exist. Psychopathy is a result of scarcity and inequality. Those greedy few who controlled the food and had the power of life and death over everybody else, eventually coming to be known as kings, robber barons, and CEOs as humanity moved into the modern era. Okay. Yes. Okay. Sure. Yep. Multiple studies show that as many as 20% of American CEOs are psychopaths, accounting for a brutal business culture and a winner-takes-all economy. Okay. I have a huge problem with this number. Sure, the study may have shown that, but something that they don't take into account is that being well-adjusted in a broken society, right? I can't imagine that they've honestly taken that into account. Because you and I have significant brain damage and are struggling, just trying to not be homeless, live in the world, and deal with the horrors of modern human civilization. Within a human civilization that is inherently sociopathic because of inequality, the rise of agrarianism, right, that brought all these problems. So there's definitely a lot more than 20% of American CEOs that are psychopaths. And this is, they're probably just talking broadly speaking of top 100 or top whatever, right? But generally, just being in business in this country, you're going to have to make shitty decisions and do harm just to remain competitive. So there's at least a high level of sociopathy amongst all business owners and leaders for the most part. Just to be competitive. Although humans are wired for empathy, collaboration, and cooperation, there's a small percentage, most estimates run between 0.5 to 2% people among us who are psychopaths. These people rarely feel empathy and view cooperation as a sign of weakness rather than strength. Right. And again, so there may be a mental condition with this, right? That this, may cause people to be psychopaths that would be psychopaths regardless of whether they were in a pre-Neolithic cooperative society or not. Right, just as a normal permutation of how brains and people turn out. But again, I expect they're talking about this from a much more clinical perspective and not a more relevant social perspective. And tragically, the psychopaths have mostly come to dominate the world of politics and business. Right, so the more psychopathic you are, the more successful you can be, because the more you're willing to destroy people and destroy businesses and destroy your opponents, right, in a brutal way of competing. I mean, let's look at just look at Amazon, Jeff Bezos, right? What he's doing with his workers there. They're having to pee in bottles. People are getting fired through text. And there's I think an article. Someone died on the line, I think, due to heat, and nothing stopped because they had to get their work done. There's this high level of psychopathy required to maintain your high level of profit and high level of competitiveness within this broken world. And same thing for politics. Again, because corporations own, and the rich, again, corporations, supranational corporate conglomerates, massive corporations, and the rich, all psychopaths, own and control the government, and they own and control Congress as well because they have the money and the power, right? So Congress themselves tend to be psychopathic too, because that's where the money and power is. Multiple studies have shown that as many as 20% of American CEOs are psychopaths, accounting for a brutal business culture and takes all economy. Depending on party affiliation, those numbers probably hold true in politics as well. If psychopaths are overrepresented in the Republican Party, Trump is the latest and most visible example, that would account for their brutal style of politics. And again, I talk about this a little bit in my post on how vote blue no matter who is antithetical to democracy. How, Republicans are far right, lunatic fringe, and Democrats are center right. Both are right wing, both are fascist, both are at very least, as far as parties are concerned, sociopaths. That's just the way it is. Because there's this, what you'll find is this this effect when you become a part of the societal control structures, government, banking, religion, police, FBI, military, right? That you tend to start becoming part of the right. You start becoming more conservative, more neoliberal, right? Because you just start shifting to the right, because that is what is required, because you have an unequal power dynamic, because you have much more control over others, and you can make more and become more, quote, successful by destroying the lives of others. The harm, the negative externalities to your success are just that, negative externalities. They don't matter to you. If psychopaths are underrepresented in the Democratic Party, that would account for why Dems constantly want compromise and work things out. Okay, such behavior is, after all, the baseline norm for humans who are not psychopaths. Okay, so again, Democrats are the controlled opposition party. It's not their job to create change. It's their job to make people think that they're on the people's side when they're most assuredly not. Democrats are fascist as well. because they are neoliberals, and people need to understand that. So this is, he's still living under the delusion that Democrats actually care. I'm going to throw this in here so that you guys have it. Democrats are just as much the problem, if not more so, than Republicans, because people believe that Democrats actually care and they're on their side, and they're not. While psychopathic CEOs and politicians battling it out in their own realms may seem remote for the average person, the reality is their psychopathic, greedy behavior accounts for much of the massive inequality we see in the world today. And that psychopath, greed-driven inequality is making us as a society sick. Yep. Okay, so here, Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett. This is talking about the books that are part of my required reading: The Spirit Level, The Inner Level. Read these books. They talk about the harms of inequality, and this is their website, Equality Trust in the UK. Again, great books if you want to learn about inequality and the harms of inequality. These are amazing books. I'll throw these up here. Amazing, amazing books. Read these fucking books. Both the books, they're amazing. They're part of my required reading. Go ahead and read them here. Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett. And also in the second book, in the second of their books, The Inner Level, they do talk about the evolutionary psychology behind why inequality causes this harm. Really, read the book. Both the books are amazing. Read them both. Richard Wilkinson and Kate Pickett of the Equality Trust in the UK have spent years documenting how the more unequal a society is, the greater will be their rates of crime, mental illness, violence, homicide, suicide, drug addiction, obesity, unwanted pregnancy, and a whole host of other medical, psychological, and social ills. Yep. On the other hand, the more egalitarian or equal a society is, the less frequently these societal ills present themselves. They've shown this is true from country to country, and even did an extraordinary breakdown state by state in the US showing the exact same effect. Exactly. And now we're finding that just playing games that are based on psychopathic behavior, like trying to wipe out your competitors and take all their assets, triggers similar reactions in people to societal inequality itself. And some games are worse than others at this. Yeah, and when I think about creating the world of tomorrow, this is something. So first we have to make that values change, and part of the thing that you need to reinforce values is entertainment, like the TV shows, games, and things like that, to reinforce your values and in things of that nature. And this is something I struggle with. What is that next stage in, shall we say, entertainment evolution that will reinforce the values that we want in society? And games, table games are one of those things that we need to work on. Like I'm thinking about, how do we create a game, like a computer game, that has two teams, or at least no, not, I won't say teams, sets you up to play on one of, shall we say, both sides. You can be competitive, or you can be on the cooperative camp. So in the end, if you have multiplayer, the cooperative people should dominate, whereas the competitive people should fight amongst themselves and destroy themselves, because cooperation is inherently more powerful and useful than competition. So creating a game like that is something I would very much like to see. So yeah. All right. Some games are worse than others at this, and the game that's the worst is Monopoly. And honestly, any game that dehumanizes others, like, I'm not in that camp of violent games are the problem, right? I've played Call of Duty a little bit. I've played all these shooting games my whole life, and I get that. I'm not going out murdering people, but there's still the concept that games like Call of Duty and other these first-person shooters, where you're going out, murdering people for fun, and it helps to create the psychological pattern to dehumanize others and to dehumanize others and make violent, much more acceptable in the brain. And that's problematic. Just having the ability to dehumanize the violence towards others is problematic psychologically. So creating games that don't do this, creating games that reinforce interdependence, and that's the key thing. Games that reinforce our mutual interdependence, not only with each other, but with the environment and education and entertainment that reinforces these things. That's what we really need. We need a whole entertainment, edutainment industry based on reinforcing our interdependence to help compensate for some of this stuff. All right, so enough bitching about that. And the game that's the worst is Monopoly. Back in 1903, Lizzie Magie, a British feminist and socialist, patented the board game that we know today as Monopoly. She invented the game as a warning about the dangers of unrestrained, unregulated capitalism. Although over the past 100 years, that has been almost completely forgotten. Dude, how you doing? Welcome. You lurk. Hope you're doing okay today. Yeah, we're doing some. This is a good article. I'm glad there's a lot here to talk about. So yeah, I'll be talking about this. Good. I'm good. I stayed up late playing a game. I did my walk this morning. I ate some Mountain Dew, so I'm doing okay. I struggled getting ready today, but for the stream. But I'm doing good. Mm-hmm. So, you lurk. As Chris Mellor reports, Monopoly stands out as the most... Yes, thank you. You too. I'll probably have to end up going to the lake this afternoon with the daughter, even though I don't like the outside thing and there's people. And well, it's at the lake, so it'll be outside and all that. But outside, sun, wind, people. Probably have to do it, but we'll see. See how that works. All right, as Chris Mellor reports, Monopoly stands out as the most debated and most forbidden board game of all time. Forbidden? In a recent survey of 2,000 U.S. residents, 20% say that their game nights with friends and family members are often always disrupted by competitive or unfriendly behavior. Oh, okay, so here. Yeah, it does sound nice. I mean, if it's not too bad outside, like there's one day I took her there and it was really nice out. I mean, it was nice enough out that I would probably open the windows to my house. I do that probably 4 times a year. No humidity, about 70 something degree temperature. I don't think it's quite that nice out today, but I guess we'll see. We'll see. So I have a my wife doesn't want me telling you this, but my wife is super competitive, and she's super competitive. So we played Monopoly once years ago, and my niece, God, she was probably 10 or 11 at the time, and my wife was bargaining with my niece to get something, and she's just trying to horrifically take advantage of my niece, and I'm sitting there trying to defend my niece, right? It brings, again, that sociopathy comes out with competition, right? And it's yeah, it reinforces dehumanizing others to take advantage of them, and that is problematic. All right. Perhaps the good news is that only 11% of respondents say they witnessed a physical fight break out. Oh my God. But Monopoly, a game that is based on the prime psychopathic value of taking everything for yourself and thus increasing inequality, seems to trigger the worst in us. Nobody's calling for a ban on the game of Monopoly, but as the Aboriginal kids taught their westernized teacher and the extraordinary scientific research of the Equality Trust clearly shows, we will all be better off if we can reform our political and business cultures to be less greed-driven, psychopath-friendly, and more collaborative and fair, humanity-friendly. To be fair, same thing. I do in Monopoly. Got something you want, better be happy. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's how you play the game, right? That's the way it is. Yeah, but I haven't quite gotten, that deep into it. Being, I want to get a good deal, right? We talk about that within the tension within methods of exchange, right? It's that exact thing right there in Monopoly. It's that tension. So you want to get the best deal, even in some cases if it means taking advantage of or destroying your competitors for fun and profit. Yeah. Oh yeah. Those psychopath-proof reforms range from tackling actual business monopolies to getting corporate and billionaire money out of politics to strengthening our democracy by establishing an absolute right for all Americans to easily and comfortably vote, like in other democracies. It's a big lift, but if we all work together, we can still make it happen. Okay, so he's right in a lot of this. Again, he's really talking about my policies. I should comments. Let's see if there's any comments here. Nope. Okay. So there you go. Lots of good stuff on there. Makes some very good points. And again, my policies are really aimed at fixing all the stuff that he's talking about. Trying to reduce the psychopathy inherent, the sociopathy inherent with our society. All right. Here's the book that was listed in there. I have not read this. Not even heard about it. Humankind, Hopeful History. What do they say about this book? I'm not going to read the whole thing here. It's from June 2020, so fairly recent. All right, well, it's linked to in the article. I'm gonna. So as a part of, okay, I was planning on having us watch this, but I'm just gonna throw this in here. Calendar reform is something I've been passionate about. He was mentioning the Neolithic Revolution 7,000 years ago. It's actually 10 to 12,000 years ago, and that brought up this the calendar reform post. What they call it? They call it the human era, the Holocene calendar. So go ahead and watch this. This is a stacked. Yeah, go ahead and watch this again. It is an amazing video. I never considered this when I was very deep into calendar reform, and I actually, after I saw this video, I added this to my policies, to my calendar reform policies. And again, if you really want to read about calendar reform, because I know you do, here's my post on it. And I do integrate this. In my policies, I use my reformed international fixed calendar, I think. Because that's the one that I like. And a part of the reformed calendar reform, here we go. And a part of the reformed international fixed calendar is the Holocene calendar, the 10,000 thing. Let's see. Oh, wait. Okay. What? Which one does this link to? Hello. Okay, this links to actual calendar form. Okay, I need to change where this link goes to. Where's reformed? Oh my God, why? All right, hold on. There we go. Maybe I need to change where this links to. Come on. I think I do. All right, so this links over to my calendar form. It's basically the international fixed calendar with a few changes. Start on Mondays, leap day shifted to June 29th, and we implement the Holocene calendar as is seen in that video, and kind of go from there. If you're bored, go ahead and read about it. Not gonna put you through it. All right, so there is this link right there. And all right, shared that, so we'll go ahead and do that. All right, next. I think this is the last capitalist one, and then we get into, okay, we get, yeah, imperialism, and then we've got all climate change after that. All right. This is from 2018. So this is a little bit old, 3 years, oh, no, go back. It's a little bit old, but it's still quite relevant. Artificial scarcity is killing you. And that is important because historically we've gone through kind of three phases. We've gone through high abundance in the pre-Neolithic and hunter-gatherers. Then we went to scarcity once we started agrarianism. And now we're into the state where we have artificial scarcity. All right, here's a tiny fact. Burberry Burberry recently had 35 million of unsold clothes, and so it burned them. Just set them alight. If you think there's something weird, infuriating, and perverse in that, you're not wrong. It contains in it the whole story of how predatory capitalism operates and why it's failed. Why it's failed a system to organize and shape human. Why it's a failed system to organize and shape human life. Need some editing there. Why did Burberry burn the very goods that people had worked so hard to imagine, create, fabricate, and try to sell? The cotton and silk and wool in them. Yeah, this definitely needs some editing here. It's a way to create artificial scarcity. Burberry needs to keep its prices high, or at least it thinks it does, because people are playing a game of status competition by buying its stuff. Oh, that dirty poor person is wearing my Burberry scarf. Now it's worthless to me. The only way in which that can be true is if what you're really buying isn't the scarf, but exclusion, social status, primacy, and dominance. Predatory capitalism operates now by enforcing this gruesome and weird idea of artificial scarcity. It's a way of manipulating markets, which are only tools so that supply can freely meet demand. At some price, meet demand at some price in which everyone's outcomes are maximized. Okay, this is pretty funny. Okay, conceptually within economics, this is supposed to be the end result. Everyone's outcomes are maximized. But as we talk about, that's never the thing. It's always the person who has the most power or the most money or the most whatever is the one whose outcomes are maximized at the to the detriment of everyone else. But artificial scarcity rules that efficient functioning of markets. Okay, but artificial scarcity rules. Okay, this really needs some editing here. Okay, but artificial scarcity rules out the efficient functioning of markets altogether. It's a way to restrict supply and therefore raise the price, right? Manipulation of the markets. Burberry burns coats so it can go on charging some people $1,000 to buy the status, the enviability that the hole in their soul needs to be filled up with, but that's the tip of the iceberg. Okay, we're gonna have to read this. Let me go ahead and open this up. We'll read that next just to take a look at it and be disgusted. Artificial scarcity is now the rule by which predatory capitalism, late stage capitalism, if you like, now operates nearly everywhere. When hedge funds buy up life-saving medicines and then skyrocket the price by 5,000%, that's artificial scarcity too. Yeah, that's the insulin thing. Whoa. Actually, Steak, how you doing today? Happy Saturday. How you doing? Yeah, we've read this one first and a bunch of comments on this. And we're doing one more post on the horrors of capitalism. Get off to bed, way too sleepy. All right, man. Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Thanks for stopping by. Appreciate it. Just passing by. Oh, passing time in night shifts. Oh, okay. Cool. It's good that you have the ability to listen to stuff while you're watch to stuff while you're doing your night shift. Thanks for throwing me on. I appreciate that. Cool. What are you doing? What's your work? Ah, okay, data analyst. Okay, cool. Yeah, working. I considered getting a degree in a few different fields. It's your second time here? Oh, okay. Well, cool. I considered going into data analytics because data is where you can find out how to, fix stuff. See the problems. You can possibly see how to fix stuff. Cool. Very cool. All right. We'll keep going. Artificial scarcity is now the rule by which... Okay, we read that. Yes, insulin. Okay. So when student debt costs more than a mortgage, it's artificial scarcity too, only by other means. And when 75% of a healthcare system is a system to limit who gets treatment to the insured, the rich, or to the otherwise profitable, that's artificial scarcity too. Right, and that's, I talk about that on here too. It's not that we don't have the resources to feed everyone, to house everyone. Crunch numbers to the USA. Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, the numbers got to be crunched, right? They don't crunch themselves. Someone has to do it. So good on you for doing it. Got to pay the bills. Need a place to live. Yikes. Yep, I'm USA. I'm in Wisconsin. Yep. South Central Wisconsin. Where are you from? You're in like Belgium or something? Are you Belgium? I haven't seen you in a while. I can't remember where you're from. India! Damn it. Not even close. My apologies. India. Actually, steak, India. All right. Try to remember. All right. Yeah, so it's not that we don't have the resources to house everyone, feed everyone, and all this sort of stuff. We have the resources. It's just people don't have access to it because of the sociopathy inherent to the system, right? That's kind of what they're talking about here. Artificial scarcity itself is sociopathic because it causes harm. The hidden cost of artificial scarcity is this. Societies governed by it never invest, instead in making precisely those very things Okay. Societies governed by it never invest in making precisely those things very abundant. You can't do both, after all. You can't make medicines artificially scarce, or you can make medicines artificially scarce, or you can build factories to make more of it, doctors to prescribe more of it, and clinics to dispense more of it. Yet America's problem is that it keeps choosing the first option, which is a ruinous one, and that means it can't do the second. What happens to a society like that and to people inside that society? Yeah, oh, okay. That's nothing. I've got a whole bunch down here too, so I'm one of those people. I've got so many tabs up. Like, this tab here is just for my streaming. Like, this is where I list this bunch of links to go over and stuff. Some of this is stuff that I've wanted to process or other research I've done. Then I've got this for my general stream for my general, you can't see, actually you can't see it. Can you see it? I can't even tell. No, because it's only looking at browsers. Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 windows down below on Chrome with a whole bunch of tabs down there too. So yeah, if I didn't have to work for a living, I could get rid of some of those. I could I could do the research. Actually, let me just go ahead and change this really quick. I'll share my desktop. There we go. There you go. So at the bottom, yeah, I've got a whole bunch down here. There we go. All right. Yeah, need more time. Need more time. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so when we talk about this, right, she keeps choosing the first option. And my blog post, it's actually a page. When I talk about this, I know you guys are sick and tired of reading it, but this is that tension within methods of exchange problem. I'll throw that in here. This is perhaps the most important post that I have. It kind of explains exactly what he's talking about here, right? You have this choice between doing what's profitable for you and your tribe or doing what is best for humanity. And that is that tension problem, that tension within methods of exchange, that tension within business. And typically, profit is what wins. The truth that USA has an awful healthcare system, well, I mean, it's that poverty is high here, right? We have like one of the highest levels of childhood poverty in the developed world, right? And it's expensive. Like I myself, as an example, I have really good healthcare, a healthcare policy. I have my Quartz, which is it's an HMO, which is it's a good healthcare. It really is. It doesn't cover dental, it doesn't cover eyes, although I do have separate dental and eye insurance as well. But even that, my daughter needs braces, and she's needed them for, she's 12 now, so she's still young enough that it's okay. But that to get braces, it's like $6,000. unless you're rolling in the dough, you can't get braces. I wanted physical therapy on my shoulder because I've got frozen shoulder for several years now. And going to a therapist cost me $500, even though I wasn't able to fix it. It cost me $500 for a fucking physical therapist. I hear a story that if you break your arm, you pay like $1,000. It could be. It all depends. It all depends on obviously what your insurance is. For me, I probably wouldn't pay anything for that. Yeah, but yeah, if you're rich or affluent, you can get whatever you want and there's no problems. But if you're not, it ends up starting to add up. Like there's, we pay like double or less, 50 to 100% more than the rest of the world does for healthcare. Yeah, it's fucking insane, dude. I want to get Invisalign for my teeth. Now it's $500. It's not that bad, but still, I haven't been able to shell out for that. So yeah, it adds up. And if you need the ambulance, that can cost you several $1,000s just for an ambulance ride. I mean, it's being not affluent is expensive because it adds up and adds up. It just gets worse and worse. No wonder all the doctors try to get yeah, no, there's great money to be made here in it. Great money. But there's a cost to that. People dying in the streets and having their lives destroyed. Like, what is it? A third of bankruptcies are because of healthcare costs? That's another one. Like a third of bankruptcies are healthcare, or is it half? I think it's a third. And a third of GoFundMe's are for medical care. I mean, it's insane. It's insane. Super insane in the membrane. I will say, if things work good here, maybe I can visit. Yeah, that'd be cool. It's a great place to visit. As an example of how it works okay, because I have good health insurance. My wife gave birth to our daughter, 12 years ago, and she had a C-section. I don't think we really paid anything from that. So my insurance paid for that. It was okay. I don't think we paid anything for it. But as long as you have insurance, right, things can be decently okay. But it's never going to be great unless you're rich. Okay, so the effect of an economic system premised on artificial scarcity is that capital income skyrockets and labor income stagnates and implodes. That's exactly what happened in America. Average incomes have stagnated for decades, but people now pay absurd prices for the basics of life. $5,000 for ambulance rides, $30,000 for childbirth, which means even those stagnant incomes are really shrinking ones in real terms. Life has become a desperate act of living every day right at the razor's edge of ruin. Right. Well, there isn't... I work for a small county government, and we use Quartz, which is a private insurance. Yeah, so private insurance. Yeah, and this is it, right? You could be one medical disaster away from being impoverished. Yeah, it's I'm sure the federal government healthcare, I'm sure, is amazing because corruption and all that sort of stuff, but everything else, it's all about making money. That's because what's scarce in the economy isn't just luxury goods in order to fuel status competition, but the basics of life in order to keep people pinned down. Healthcare, education, finance, income, savings, opportunity, security, in a sense that life can be lived in tranquility and stability. All these are in chronic, consistent, and omnipresent shortage under capitalism. Yeah, everyone just wants money. Exactly right. It's all about the Benjamins. So yeah, in this here, this is kind of a feature of the system of monetary systems and capitalism, but also this is a feature of here in the United States, the Democrats and the Republicans want us poor and struggling, because if we're poor and struggling and trying to make it day to day, then we cannot be out there educating ourselves and figuring out that they are the problem, that we are victims of the broken system that they are creating. Poverty, struggling in any country is a policy decision made by those in charge. And that's what they don't want us understanding. Can we have good capitalism or socialism in the way? So capitalism, as long as money exists, it will always turn bad. It's because of that tension problem. That is because profit is always what is going to corrupt everything. If profit is going to be able to be a thing, everything is going to get fucked up. Socialism, socialism is just more ethical capitalism, but much like we're finding with the Nordic countries, that eventually that corruption will always find its way back in, and it's always going to destroy things as it goes on. It's not a matter of if that corruption of money and profit gets back in there. It's just a matter of when it gets in there, and that's eventually even the amazing countries are going to get torn down by capitalism. Are going to get socialized countries are going to get torn down by monetary systems. It's just a matter of when. I talk about that a little bit. I talk about that in here specifically. Cancer of capitalism, right here. Do you guys like Joe Biden? No, fuck that dude. He's a war criminal and a racist. Yeah, everyone voted for him just to get rid of Trump. Yeah. So this is my Cancer of Capitalism post, and people vote blue just because they want to get rid of Trump, not because they actually want change. If the people actually wanted change, or had the time to educate themselves, they would be voting green, because that's where actual change really is. People are too brainwashed. They don't know that any other party is at all an option. Not that it really is an option, but yeah, it's either blue or red. Green party? The Green Party? I mean, the Democrats and Republicans fight hard against libertarians and any third parties, especially the Green Party. Last year, during the election, the Democrats fought hard to get Green Party off all the ballots as much as they could. Well, not all the ballots, but in a lot of the important states, they got rid of them. Yeah, Green Party is fairly big in Europe. Yep, because they have an actual left in Europe, whereas the United States we don't. We have all right wing. Republicans are far right, lunatic fringe, and Democrats are center right. They are neoliberals, and that kind of started with Bill Clinton is when it started going away. So we don't have any left here in the country. Yay us! Woo! As long as we're struggling, we can't hold people accountable. That's why people struggling is it's a bipartisan issue. It's a bipartisan policy choice by Democrats and Republicans. A society like America simply doesn't have enough of them to go around, precisely because it wastes much of what it has and doesn't invest in more. Why? Precisely because capitalism cannot and will not provide enough of them. High enough quality and low enough cost, it will always try to restrict the amount available and cut corners even on that, so that it can charge people as much as possible and maximize profits. Why else does insulin cost hundreds in America, but pennies even in poor countries? Exactly, it's all about the profit. What is capitalism? Capitalism's ultimate tool for making these basics of a decent life artificially scarce. It's tying all of them to, quote, jobs. So in America, you only get healthcare, a pension, a safety net, an income, and so on if you have a job. Okay, all right, there's truth in that, yep. State capitalism, well, as long as there's money involved, I'm not going to like it. State capitalism, you're talking about China, right? And other authoritarian regimes that are, quote, communist, socialist. What I'll say to that, there's only one advantage to it. Other than that, you can just throw it away. Authoritarian regimes in general, if they decide to do something, it gets done. That's the only benefit. Like China has decided to do lots of things, and they've made a beeline towards doing it. They've reduced poverty to an extent in their country, and they're working on lots of things. And they made the decision to do it. No one can vote against it because they'll end up getting murdered, and they're just going ahead and do it. But as long as there's money, as long as there's capitalism, money involved, nothing is going to end up good. Because most left party here are Stalinist. Okay. Yeah, I haven't really studied communism or socialism all that much. I've read a few pages of the Communist Manifesto, but that's pretty much it. But yeah, I don't know much about that. I need to take vacation and sit down and read the Communist Manifesto and Das Kapital to get myself really kind of starting my education on that. I'm not even kidding. There's a politician here who likes Stalin so much that he changed his name. Oh, really? Wow. Wow. That's crazy. And I've heard kind of a little bit within, communism, socialism, that, there's fighting between Marxist and Stalinist and all this sort of stuff about how, they approach that sort of a thing. So, yeah, that's crazy, dude. That's fucking crazy. Well, hopefully he doesn't go too nuts with it because, Stalin wasn't a nice guy, right? He killed lots of people. Lots and lots of people. Or something like that, right? Yeah. All right. So here, debt slavery, wage slavery, that's what they're pointing to. If you're not working, you end up dying in the streets. And that's exactly what they want. They want you to slave to the system. So good stuff there. But the problem is that jobs were an institution built for an industrial economy. Sad part is that he won an election in one state. So is he good or bad? I don't know anything about him. Is he too nuts because, he changed his name and all that? Is he authoritarian? Bad, okay. I'm sorry then, dude. I'm sorry. Yeah, the thing with, communism and socialism is that it appeals to different people for different reasons. I mean, obviously for the left, it's about the inequality in the wage war between villagers to gain votes. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's too bad. It's the dividing, creating emotional problems in order to gain votes instead of actually having a policy and a platform. His part name is CPI, Communist Party of India. Okay. Wow. Yeah, like, the history of communism and socialism, it appeals to different people for different reasons. Like, some of it appeals to them because of the authoritarianism that ends up happening whenever it's been tried. And for some, it's actually about the anti-capitalist talking points, the anti-capitalist rhetoric, which is important. Much like communism and socialism became a movement, and the labor movement itself, all of them sprung up out against the horrors inflicted by capitalism. So had capitalism not been so fucking brutal and exploitive, communism, socialism, the labor movement might not have ever formed. But exploitation is inherent and an integral part of monetary systems, capitalism. All right. So the problem is that jobs were an institution built for an industrial economy. You go to the factory, you spend 8, maybe 12 hours doing the same thing every day forever because you are making the same thing. You're just another cog in that wheel for the rich to make their bills. Basically, when India got independence, USSR started fluing Indian politics. Yep. Yeah, and I can see that also being a thing, not just because of Russia's influence, but because of the high levels of inequality and poverty in India during the Cold War. Yep. Yeah, so that would be that would be examples of the two levels of influence, because Russia, right, the USSR was authoritarian, right, and so they would want to help turn India communist so that they can have another authoritarian state to work with. And then also that people at the bottom might want to talk about socialism and communism because of the anti-capitalist rhetoric and the oppression of the people and that sort of a thing. Start supporting Pakistan, which lead to terrorist attack. Yeah, United States is the largest terrorist organization in the world. We are horrific. We are bad. The United States is bad. And honestly, world peace cannot start until the United States decides it no longer wants to be the largest terrorist organization in the world. No peace until the United States decides to become part of the solution. And I talk about that in my post. I'm going to talk actually over here. Let me talk about. I'll share this here. I talk about in here how a resource-based economy might. Oh well, not might, but if by some miracle America was bad, but I think they're improving now. No, we're not. We're not improving at all. We're still. I mean, Biden being president, the bombs aren't going to stop. The economic global warfare isn't going to stop. The imperialism isn't going to stop. All the shit that the United States has been doing for decades isn't going to stop. It's not going to get better. Let me. I specifically talk about the United States in here. And that if the United States, they got out of Afghanistan, though. Yeah, but true. That is true. That's, although, what is it? Though the people who stay behind are private contractors. So war profiteering is still there. And I bet you a lot of those companies are from the United States that are profiteering from the private contractors that are there. They're only pulling out because someone's going to benefit from it. I don't know who. We just have to figure out where that money trail leads. But if you look at that Taliban, yes, you have Taliban, ISIS, Al Qaeda. We're all trained. Vietnam Part 2. Yeah, exactly. Again, the United States, Central South America, Middle East, Africa, we're there exploiting and destroying them for fun and profit. I mean, that's like Middle East. Not that all those countries are poor, but those countries that are struggling, Central South America, Africa, Middle East, they're not poor. They're just being exploited by America and the West because of our imperialism and our colonialism. Rape these countries for their resources, take it out, have it benefit the Western countries, and leave these global Southern countries poor. And that's pretty much one of the issues with the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. They look like they're helping, but they're actually there to help the West engage in economic warfare against the struggling countries. Because what part of especially the IMF, when you get their loans, they say, okay, we'll give you this money, but you have to basically let Western countries take over your resources and benefit from it while you're left with nothing. I was reading this funny post that USA saying to Russia that Afghan will be your Vietnam and how the tables have turned. Yeah, I've got no love for Russia. Russia's corrupt as fuck too, in different ways. I mean, they're capitalist. They're just as fucked as we are. Well, as we are. No, you're good. You're fine. Don't worry about it. You speak more languages than I do, so you got nothing to apologize for. You're amazing. More amazing than I am. So just keep going. Seriously, I'm an American in many, many ways. Too many ways. Because Russia has Putin and he's corrupt as hell and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's not good. Not good for anybody. All right, I'll move on. Okay, here we go. Okay, making the same thing, just a cog in the wheel, going to work, right? A modern economy is not an industrial, is not, my God. Someone needs to edit this fucking article. It's not an industrial, churning out mass-produced consumer goods. Okay, this sentence makes no sense. Son of a bitch, people. A modern economy is not an industry churning out mass-produced consumer goods. Okay, this doesn't quite make sense. It's one doing more creative. Okay, a modern economy is not an industry churning out mass-produced consumer goods. Okay, it's an economy that is doing more creative, intellectually demanding, humane, and sophisticated things. And quite naturally, for that reason, it doesn't have, quote, jobs so much as it has projects, endeavors, programs, efforts, and movements. Oh, this is a great fucking statement. Okay, so this, yes, this, to attach the basics of life to a job is to make a decent life itself artificially scarce in a modern economy. Yes, that's exactly right. So this here is a great statement, and this is really kind of representative of my policies. What they're saying is we have to remove people's livelihood from having a job. People shouldn't, if they don't have a job, they shouldn't die in the streets, right? And much of my policies are about that. Universal basic income, if we can get public housing, universal healthcare, universal education, and that sort of a thing, right? This is exactly right, and this is what my policies try to do. Why does so much work today feel so meaningless, so pointless? Because it is. True that. If you understand all the above, then you will also understand that much of the work done in the predatory capitalist economy is basically maximizing artificial scarcity to a precise and exact breaking point, keeping what should be abundant for all limited to just the most profitable few. That's what hedge funds do. That's what those billing managers at hospitals do. That's what insurance agents do. Yeah, that's what insurance agents at HMOs do. I don't say that to condemn them. But in fact to empathize with them. When you're devoting your life to the cause of maximizing artificial scarcity, it can only mean something like, I impoverish people for profit. Such a life will lack meaning, happiness, and purpose, won't it? Those are things we gain when we generally improve the lives that we touch, because human beings are governed by empathic resonances in the heart, as much as we don't like to admit. Okay, so yes, this is really good stuff here. So to take, I agree, lots of work, but if pays well, we do it. Yeah, exactly. We need to survive. We want to get ahead. We want, in that exchange, what is best for us and gets us the furthest along, most definitely. So what they're pointing to here is interdependence. When you work in these soul-crushing jobs, especially insurance agencies where you have to deny people that life-saving surgery, it's fucking crushing for everyone. It's crushing for the people in the insurance industry. It's crushing for the people whose lives are being directly destroyed. And the insurance industry, health insurance industry specifically, doesn't provide anything to the people. It's just a middleman that stands between healthcare and the people, and so that these companies can profit off people's suffering. And that is devastating. It can end up being very devastating to people who work in this industry. And not just directly because they have to hear the stories and be a part of the process of, basically murdering people for fun and profit, but because it starts to set up the psychology in these individuals to dehumanize others, to dehumanize the suffering of others. And that's not something that is good for us, but it's also something that's counter to our evolutionary psychology. To get out of the system, I think we should start farming goods and foods. So now I see that within the resource-based economy movement, and I get that. The problem I have with that on a broad scale is that once you start moving to individual self-reliance and doing your own farming, you're setting yourself back hundreds of years, over 100 years, by not taking advantage of mass, automation and that sort of a thing. Because you're spending all of your time working to eat and not on things that you actually want to do. So I get that, and overtake the industry in production, which is I know not possible, worth a try. Or start a commune. Okay, yeah, and that's a lot of resource-based economy people talk about that sort of stuff too, and there's something to that. But again, it's the scale that is the problem. If people want to do it, go and do it. I definitely applaud that sort of a thing. But again, it's the scale. People spend all their time serving the commune instead of doing this stuff that they actually want to do, because it's such the small scale. It's the scale that is the problem. In today's world, we, again, on a globe, I know it's a stupid statement, but we try. Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair. In the resource-based economy communities, I see this sort of same sort of thing too. I mean, what can we do as individuals to help make the world a less shitty place? At least for myself, or maybe some people I know, right? And because you and I have such little power, doing that sort of a thing is one way to do it. It's one way to at least try and do something. So I get that. And that's, honestly, when I look at my school board policies, when I run for school board, as I am running for school board, I don't take that approach with food, at least to start. I start with, I want to try and unite the parents in the school district under a website, and then get them working together to help pool resources to help make life better for everyone in the community. So it's kind of that sort of mentality. Start local, and then try to make the world a better place. And it's a valuable thought. Like, think globally, but work locally. Curly Bear, how you doing? Welcome. I'm just fucking raging on capitalism and stuff like that. We've got actually colors red. Actually, Steak here from India, and we're talking about capitalism and trying to make a difference. How's your weekend? And you're here before, well, the last 45 minutes. It's cool. Earlier than normal. I'll go ahead and share. Is school in USA has communes? No. That would definitely be, the government would never do that. They would fucking lose their minds. Yeah, that would be, because communes would promote interdependence and a much better society, and that they can't do that. They can't make the world a better place through education. That would, oh my God, that's communism. Oh my God, some people lose their minds. This is the first article we covered, Girly Bear, and this is the one where I had a lot of comments on this. And then I shared this one. Like, parents have authority on teachers. Blah, ha, ha, ha. Nope, parents have no power. And this is the one we're going through right now. Yeah, and that's part of the problem. Parents don't really have, it's hard for parents to have any influence over everything because the education system is kind of a black box. I've talked to some parents in kind of running for school board, and that's what they feel like. I mean, how do I advocate for my child? How do I fucking do anything? You know, people don't have a clue. Well, a primary, like grade school and, you know, K through 12 is paid for, you know, by the state and the local communities through taxes. So that, you know, that's not so bad. So, cause that's free for everyone, but college is really expensive, really expensive. I mean, I've got a $36,000 loan for my degree, and I still don't have paid it off 20 years later. Yeah, that's a huge thing. Education's not free. Higher education isn't free. And of course, the issue with education, K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade. I know college in the US is, yeah. But grades K through 12, kindergarten through 12th grade isn't. Now, the issue with that, though, even though that is free for people here in this country, the issue is local funding. Schools that are in impoverished areas don't have money, therefore they have crappy education. Schools that are in $103,000, holy fucking balls, dude, seriously? Did you get another degree after your first one? I think mine's gone down a little bit, like from 36 to 34 or something like that. I can't remember. But I haven't gone back to school. I've considered going back to school. And no degree? What? What the hell did you do? What were you? How did you? What? Did you go to like Harvard or MIT where it's like $50,000 a year or something like that? Wow, that's fucking bullshit. Had two really small kids. Ah, okay. Yeah, that'll do it. Again, that's kind of example of it's if the state doesn't provide universal health care, universal daycare, free education. Yeah, that's like my mother. She wanted to be a nurse, and she didn't do that because I was her first kid, and she didn't do that because she had a kid, and our country doesn't provide that support. How much better would our country have been if my mother was able how much better would my family have been in general and society at large if my mother was able to be a nurse, because she had the social support required to support that. I have an engineering degree and I paid my debt in 4 months. I'm going to ban you now. Actually, Steak. Go away. Congratulations, though, dude. That's awesome. Good for you. Rub it in, rub it in. Community college, then Cal State was 23.5 years of school. Couldn't do it anymore. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Kid's dad didn't help, so I left. I'm sorry, dude. That sucks. That sucks, girl. Yeah, that's just a testament to how fucked up our system really is. I mean, a highly educated populace is one of the most important things we can do, and when they're not supporting that, our society and you as an individual and your family misses out on that too. I mean, this is such a huge loss to not just, you and your family and our country, but to, world at large. Who knows what sorts of things you could have accomplished, discovered, or whose lives you could have changed if you had that opportunity. That sucks. Government college here is very cheap, and I got lucky and got a good job in campus place. Okay, cool. Good for you. Good for you. I'm happy to hear that. When I defaulted, they slapped another $7,000. Oh, of course, because they got to make money off the processing and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I've been filing for quite a few years. Not unable to pay for it. Income-based deferment or something like that for quite a few years now. That sucks. That sucks. Sorry. And it's not something that goes away. It's something that's always there. I'm shocked that America's... Oh, it is. It is. Because that's, again, if you can make money off it here, there's someone here trying to make money off it to destroy everything and make money in the profit. I thought you guys have the best. Well, we have high quality colleges. Some very good colleges. But it's expensive. So us plebes, us poors... we're not going to be able to afford it. Just keeps growing and growing. Yep, that's what interest does. Keeps growing and growing. If you're rich, you can get an amazing education here. An amazing education. But you got to be rich. Not us sad, pathetic plebes. So I considered going back to school. So I wanted to get a degree in creative writing, specific novel writing, because I wanted to write novels, science fiction, fantasy. And I was accepted into an online school, but I couldn't justify dropping another 15 grand into my student loans when I currently have 30-some thousand in student loans. I just couldn't do that to my family. Still not be able to pay for it. It just didn't make any fucking sense. And I've considered going back to school for lots of things, lots of different things over the years. Constitutional law. I even considered getting a degree in divinity from a Unitarian Universalist, Unitarian Universalism. I think to get my postgraduate degree in America, I'm changing my mind. It's a racket. It is a racket. It is a racket. Well, I mean, actually, sake, if you have the money and you save up for it, it would be a great experience, I think. Just, just to travel the world and see it. And we've got some decent, really good education universities here, if you have the money to do it. So make sure you have it paid for before you do it. Otherwise, if you have a good job now, well, you could try, instead of going to America, you could go to like Germany. Because Germany has free education for everyone, even if you're not scholarship. Sure, if you can do that, that's great too. As long as you got it paid for, give it a try, because there's a lot of great things here in America. A lot of great things everywhere. But if you can get it paid for first, great. Yeah, Europe would be cool. Germany again pays for. Anyone can go there for free or whatever. I don't know if there are any other countries that do that. The Nordic countries as well have an amazing education system, it's best in the world, right? So yeah, coming to the U.S., make sure you have it paid for first. Estonia? Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't know much about Estonia. The only thing I've read about them is that they have the most technologically advanced government infrastructure. And actually, I talk about that in my policies, actually. So did I close it down? I did close it down. Because their entire government is digitalized, and that's what we need to be doing. That's what we need to be doing. There we go. But Russia bully Estonia. Yeah, Russia will bully anyone if they're gonna bully that whole area until they control it all. They're very expansionistic. Yeah, they're gonna be a huge problem. They've always been a huge problem in one way or another. Hopefully, Estonia will be able to stay strong. All right. But what if that's all there is? What happens when all of human life is organized at a social scale according to predatory capitalism's law of artificial scarcity? On multiple levels. First, the idea of a job creates artificial scarcity for the most fundamental goods, income, savings, healthcare, and so on. But somewhere that they're bringing the White Russians back. Oh, really? A White Russian is amazing. I married a White Russian. My wife is from Belarus, which is Belarus, White Russia, right? Then actually the drink, that's one of my favorite drinks, the White Russian. Amazing drink. Yeah, my sister, she was a bartender. She makes the best White Russians in the whole world. Not that I've traveled the world quite a bit, but I haven't tried White Russians everywhere. But yeah, she makes the best White Russians. My nephew also is a bartender. Actually, he owns a bar. He just bought one this year. And when he makes a White Russian, it's a lot heavier on the alcohol. I think it's specifically the vodka in there. So if I want a little more alcohol, I go to my nephew. If I want just the perfect balance, I go to my sister. Yeah. All right. And finally, artificial scarcity rules in the arena of luxury goods, producing intense status competition. What does it feel like to live in such a society? Well, life feels like one endless, constant, relentless battle. Yes. In a kind of war for existence itself, economic existence, social existence, financial existence, institutional existence. Sounds like your parents-in-law make the best White Russian. Not my parents, my sister. Oh, my parents. Okay. Parents-in-law make the best White Russian. See? Okay, good one. Yes, I definitely am partial to this one. I decided to keep this one. Definitely worth keeping. I have to quote you on that. That's pretty smart. Oh, that is cool. Well said. Hear, hear. I was talking about White Russia Empire during the Russian Civil Empire, but this is also fun. Okay. Cool. Yeah. This is White Russian. Wife is cool. All right. So yes, the human mind begins to be consumed with feelings of dread, fear, rage, greed, and envy, but all these are the opposites of meeting happiness and purpose. Exactly. And being in capitalism, it really literally gives us brain damage. It increases suffering and all sorts of horrible things like that, because it's always about competition. It's always struggling to survive and to work against those who are trying to profit off your misery. I think it's no overstatement to say that people's minds begin to shatter and fracture with trauma, depression, loneliness, and a kind of deep-seated grief for which we don't have a name yet. Maybe. Okay, yeah. So we're just suffering. I guess we do. We're suffering from capitalism. That's what we're suffering from. The inner logic goes like this: if only I'd had that medicine, that education, those emergency savings, that safety net, I could have lived a better life. And there was no good reason for me not to have it. Didn't I deserve it? Am I worthless? Crack. A mind fractures because because to face such things every day is to also feel one's most primal fears of abandonment, annihilation, and isolation come true. Don't we see that in America today? Yeah, and actually, when we read earlier in the previous article, he was talking about the book by the spirit level and the inner level, talking about the biopsychosocial harms of inequality, right? Just struggling every day, being impoverished, worrying about where your next meal or check comes from or whatever, creates depression, anxiety, and all sorts of things. It's hard to be happy. And when you have to worry about stuff all the time, there's always this anxiety of all the things you have to worry about. And that's for those, of course, who are impoverished, but those in the middle class as well. But those, and of course, who are impoverished and struggling, it's even worse for them because they're not just worried about it, they're living it every single day. And then when we get into systemic and structural violence, specifically systemic and structural racism, it's even worse for people of color who live it every day, because like a disproportionate number of people of color are impoverished in this country. And it's messed up. And that struggle creates psychological damage. It creates brain damage. And there's studies, if you want to read about some of this, I've got, I facilitated a talk on poverty, a few years ago. You can see some links and stuff here talking about it, and just children living in poverty actually suffer real brain damage from being impoverished. And that's such, it's horrific. It's bad. It's horrific that our government allows this to happen. Poverty is a policy choice. Human suffering is a policy choice. I mean, how many? I would talk about humanity's lost prodigies, right? Throughout the rise of capitalism, especially capitalism within the last 100 years, poverty being a policy choice, how many impoverished people who have suffered and died in obscurity, how many prodigies have we lost in those numbers of people who have suffered and died? How many brilliant children who could have grown up to be innovators and peacemakers and all these sorts of things, but they never had the chance because they were suffering in poverty. They never had the opportunity, never had the chance. I mean, imagine what to get, with what capitalists like, how much of our GDP has been impacted by all these people suffering in poverty. How many technological innovations have we lost? How many innovative companies have we lost because poverty is a thing in this country? Because people struggling in this country is a thing. So such a society suffers terrible and destructive outcomes. Its quality of life craters in hard terms. People die young and get sicker. Artificial scarcity for social signifiers is what people are chasing furiously all their days long. And so they look down their noses at everyone else, but never gain a sense of humility, of equality, of dignity. Yeah, and this is that sociopathy that is gained through inequality, right? Once you become affluent, the sociopathy sets in. Or even in the middle class, there's a level of sociopathy too, because we're doing okay, especially those who aren't politically aware. They're still voting Democrat, or some of them are still fucking voting Republican for some ridiculous reason. I mean, if you vote Republican, you're definitely at least a sociopath. If you vote Democrat, you're still sociopathic, because the bombs don't stop falling. The poverty doesn't go away. The economic sanctions on Cuba aren't going away. All the presidents, Democrat and Republican, are still destroying Central and South America, India, Africa. They're doing everything they can to destroy everything for corporate profit. And unless you've got the freedom to educate yourself politically, you're just never going to know that. Society governed by artificial scarcity, in other words, will be one in which people live nasty, brutish, mean, unhappy, and short lives. Yep. Suffering and war and poverty are features of capitalism. But of all these negative effects, I think the most ruinous one is to the mind. People don't only grow unhappy, desperate, afraid of each other, suspicious, cold, mistrusting. They begin to really desperately break inside with the shattering trauma, the guilt, and shame of being abandoned and neglected. Yes. I'm gonna share this again. I know you guys hate it. This is that tension within methods of exchange problem. When we deny our mutual interdependence, much like they're talking about the issues with poverty, the denial of our mutual interdependence causes brain damage because it causes us to be sociopathic because we sever that connection between ourselves and the rest of humanity, and we sever that connection between ourselves and the rest of the natural world because we are just trying to survive, right? That primal animalistic instinct to just survive at any cost is what kicks in, and that ends up harming other people. That harms us psychologically, and our actions itself ends up harming others in one form or another, directly or indirectly. It's that biopsychosocial harm inflicted by inequality and struggling and suffering. Am I worthless? I must be. But what happens when people internalize the lesson that people only deserve artificial scarcity, or that worthless people don't deserve anything at all, which is exactly the same thing. Again, this article needs significant editing. I don't know how this got through. Then we end up with something like Stockholm Syndrome of capitalism. Yep, I talked about this before. Right, we start identifying with our oppressors and defending Democrats, defending Republicans, defending Bezos and the corporations. They end up defending the 1% when they are our oppressors. We shouldn't be defending them. We should be tearing them down. Such people will deny their neighbors, peers, and colleagues everything, won't they? Healthcare, education, finance, transport, media, safety nets, and so on. Worthless people don't deserve anything. Yeah, and this is the when they say victimizing, victim blaming. You know, saying that people who are poor and impoverished, they are the problem. It's not. They are not people who are impoverished. It is their problem because they are shitty human beings. That's what they end up saying. And it's what we need to be understanding is poverty is a systemic and structural result of the system. They are victims of this broken system. They are victims. My friend worked as content writer in a news site, and he told me that editors don't even read the article. They just put it through straight. Editing is good editors are worth their money in gold. I do a lot of writing myself, and God, I'd kill for an editor, a really good editor. Because like this article, this is probably the first time I've had an article that came through that was this poorly edited. This is just, it's staggering how, things could be worse, right? Horrific, but this is just, there have been sentences I couldn't finish because they weren't written properly. So this is kind of mind-boggling, actually. Yeah, editing, important. Such a person has become an agent of the law of artificial scarcity, but the law of artificial scarcity is what made them one. Do you see the perversity? Let me make it clear. Yeah. Okay. If the logic of predatory capitalism's grief says, if only I'd had those things, I could have lived a better life, didn't I deserve them, wasn't I a human being too, then the defense against something like, nobody deserves such things, if I can't have them, no one else will either. Yes. Yep. It becomes that bitterness, that jadedness, that brain damage that comes from being separated from humanity. It's that sociopathy setting in. Editors equals free money. Well, I wouldn't say free money. It's just, it keeps people from going away. Yeah. If your stuff is edited well, no one's going to notice. people only notice it when it's not edited well. Yeah. It's a good editors are a lack of loss of money. Yeah. A kind of vengeance proceeds from the grief whose purpose is to restore equality and justice to the world again. And now people are equal in having nothing, and justice is the act of stripping people of dignity. So people who spend too long in the system of artificial scarcity, I think, end up being so profoundly traumatized by them that like abuse victims, they become abusers themselves in order to restore harmony and fairness and give themselves a kind of perverse power. Yes. Yep. So this is, again, it's when you're part of the system, you're part of a system that rejects our mutual interdependence, and the brain damage from that may turn you into someone who has their connection to humanity severed or broken, and then you become damaged as a part of it and end up becoming part of the problem. Like my mother, I cannot have political discussions with my mother. End up acting like that. Yeah, oh, definitely. My mother is blindly religious, even though she doesn't ever go to church, right? So we can't talk politics because I just end up yelling at her because she's so fucking brain damaged, right? We had this conversation about healthcare, and she said that's communism or socialism, or I had it rough, therefore they should have a rough, sort of a mentality. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I mean, why? If you suffered, why the fuck would you want anyone else to suffer when they don't have to? It's like we talk about, politics and the difference between left and the right, if there actually is one, if there is a left and there is a right, like in this country there isn't. But how do you teach people to have empathy and compassion? I mean, that's the first thing you have to help them understand. You can't, it's hard to teach them that. And that's the way the system affects people. When you break that connection between the individual and the rest of humanity, that breaks compassion and empathy. And that's why in my educational policies that teaching compassion and empathy is one of the most important things we need to teach, as well as teaching that we are all connected, that we are all interdependent to help prevent this from happening. When you break that connection to humanity, everything falls apart. Here's what I think. Artificial scarcity is the law at the end of predatory capitalism, the principle by which it operates. It's not the end of predatory capitalism. I mean, artificial scarcity is an inherent part of it. From not from the beginning, well, from capitalism itself, starting in the 1600s or whatever. But sure, it's not the end. It's not the end of it, but it's definitely an integral part of contemporary capitalism. But the price is that it also drives people out of their adult minds, or at least out of their better selves, if you like. Yep. When people themselves begin to become the enforcers of artificial scarcity as a way to reduce the grief they feel for the loss of human potential that it has produced, then they break apart. Yeah, and again, when companies like destroy their product, like Amazon is destroying product. We just had this article, they linked to an article up above. This clothing company burning their clothes so they can increase artificial scarcity, right? That's sociopathy, if not psychopathy, because you're literally harming others to keep your profit margin up. Instead of giving the clothes to people, making sure they have clothes, you're destroying it. It's fucked in the brain. When people, so no matter how nominally rich such a society gets, such people are going to find it difficult to stay a democracy, a republic, or even in free in minimal ways. They'll go on enforcing the rule of artificial scarcity. Okay, so yeah, we're definitely not a democracy. We never have been from the very beginning in the United States. That's just a lie. But yeah, the higher inequality gets, the more sociopathic society becomes, and the less choice the people have. Because the more inequality will rise, and the more the top will control and own everything. And that's what we have here in the United States with unbridled, unrestrained capitalism. Like the top 1% have more money than the bottom 50% of the country. Some crazy shit like that. And we have the highest level of inequality in the developed world, like 350 to 1. What site is it published on? Eudaimonia. I've read a few articles from them, and this is the first one I've had that was so broken from editing. I'm really quite I'm stunned, actually. Stunned. What the law of artificial scarcity operating at the end of predatory capitalism is really saying: you can only have what you need if you can pay the impossible price we demand, or else we burn it all down. Well, that's always been the case. That's always been the case. So it's not the end. That's just the way capitalism operates. Because that's how profit is generated and maintained. It's exactly the logic of an abuser, if you think about it. And when people, enough of them anyways, begin to believe that is the only way to run society, what is the result? Precisely the authoritarian meltdown America is now facing, because the logic of the abuser and the authoritarian is one and the same. All right. I've had a little bit of a problem with the editing, of course, and some of the framing of this, but ultimately, basically good article. Oh, and they were... Okay, yeah, so we were going to look at this article. This is the article. This is what they were linking to a search on. So at the top of the article, they were talking about this. Burberry burns bags, clothes, and perfume worth millions. This is from... I'll go and throw this in here so we can take a look at it. So you guys take a look at it if you want to. It's from July 2018, and this article is also from 2018 as well. It's from July, and this is from July as well. Oh, they must be an expensive brand. The upmarket British fashion label destroyed. Accessories and perfume worth $28.6 million last year to protect its brand. Wow. Then products. Yeah, this was... Here we go. There's this one too. Amazon is doing the same thing. Unsold goods from smart TVs to laptops. Go the fuck away. So if you want to read more about that, there's those two articles. It's such a waste. And this is, again, artificial scarcity. Again, in this world, it's not that we don't have enough of stuff. We have enough of basically everything to end poverty, homelessness, clothing problems, food problems, all the problems. It's that there's no profit in doing so. No, not at all. I mean, you're not at all devil's advocate, because this is exactly the way it is. Bernard Arnault is the chair and CEO of LVMH, the world's largest luxury goods business, and the chair of its holding company, Christian Dior. His estimated net worth is $150 billion. Jesus. Yeah, it's a month or so ago, he was the richest man. Oh, really? I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of money to be made in artificial scarcity. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. And, it's not just... And it's also not just that, people are this stuff. It's not just that this stuff could be going to people and solving problems, right? It's also a massive waste of resources. How much energy and resources are we wasting when we're facing with climate change and all that sort of stuff? I mean, it's such a waste of life, it's such a waste of goods, and it's such a waste of resources to do this. And this is emblematic of what capitalism really is. Profit, no matter the cost to humanity or the natural world. This is exactly what monetary systems provide. And it's bullshit. Oh, where is it? Oh, here we go. Let's bring this over here. Look. All right, we'll take a look at this one. So we have just a little bit of time left here. I've got about 10 minutes left. Not this one. This one here. The Amazon one. How big is this? Too big. No, it's not too bad. All right, we'll read this one. Got about 10 minutes left. We can get through this. This is a 4-minute read. So, all right. Amazon is destroying millions of unsold goods from smart TVs to laptops. This is from... Oh, this is from... This is from April. January, February, March? I think this is March. Not sure how their dating format is going. Give me a date. Oh, it is recent. Okay, so this is from July. All right, July 3rd. This is a bit older of a story. All right, well, let's go through it. An Amazon warehouse expose in the UK underscores a larger problem with how goods are treated as disposable. A recent undercover investigation in an Amazon warehouse in Dunfermline, Scotland, reported the disposal of more than 130,000 new or lightly used objects in a single week in just that one location. Public outrage was clear. Questions were asked about how Amazon could be so wasteful and why weren't the usable objects sent to those in need. You're back? Okay. I've got about 10 minutes. 10 minutes left. So hurry. Amazon responded to the ITV investigation by saying it is working towards a goal of zero product disposal. Baha! And that no items are sent to landfill in the UK. Well, where the fuck do they go then? You just burn them? UK Business Secretary Kwasi Kwarteng responded to the warehouse story with surprise, implying that this waste was unexpected. Both Amazon and the Scottish government have circular economy strategies designed to limit waste to landfill. Okay. Circular economy strategies is good. I talk about that in my policies. Looking for a regenerative, open source circular economy. So this is good. But to dump it into poor countries. Yeah, exactly. Sending it to poor countries. Exactly. Yep. That's what they've been doing for quite a few years. The Amazon whistleblower behind the story claimed there's no rhyme or reason to what gets destroyed, suggesting this surprise waste was the consequence of a disorganized system. With that, I don't understand. Amazon is destroying... Okay, blah, blah. All right. Let's go down here. But waste doesn't just happen. Trash is the result of sociocultural acts of classification in which objects are considered valueless within a particular context. Organizations classify objects with financial accounts. From an accounting perspective, the waste in the Amazon warehouse was neither disorganized nor unexpected, but rather was a predictable consequence of accounting designed for a linear economy. Most objects in financial accounts are classified as stock, a type of asset. Stocks depreciate in value over time until ultimately, when cost of storage outweighs potential return. Exactly. That unsold stock becomes a liability. Yeah. So it's probably a year or two old, stuff that they didn't sell through their Amazon online store, so they end up throwing it away. Organizations can choose how to dispose of their liabilities, but in balance book terms, the stock has become waste, worthless objects to be discarded in the cheapest possible way. Exactly. Society is producing more waste every year, and yet for most of us, that waste remains out of sight. Most wealthy countries have designed waste management systems that remove perceived worthless objects from our economy quickly and cheaply. So this, again, I talk about this in my policies a little bit. I don't quite go into this. I don't actually address this directly. Get back here. Crap. No, come back. So in cases like this sort of stuff should basically be thrown into a resource sharing center so that people have access to it, so they can either just take it so that it doesn't go to waste, or we really need to recycle this stuff because that's so much wasted resources. Okay. Go to the schools. Yep, that would be a great place. Yep, definitely. Okay, lost my place. The efficiency of these hidden waste management systems is reflected in financial accounts. Traditional waste infrastructure, landfill materials recovery facilities is accessible and reliable enough to still be the cheapest disposal option for many organizations, despite landfill taxes designed to encourage alternative paths for unwanted objects. Yeah, in my school board policies, I think I do have. Do I have sharing? I think I don't know if I have it in there or not. Working on a sharing resource sharing site. I have to check that out. But that would be one way to help reduce poverty and inequality in my community by making sure that companies that are going to throw stuff out don't throw it out, but send it over to us so that we can distribute it to those people in need. Need to check that out. What makes the Amazon case particularly alarming is the volumes of waste involved, several million tons a year by some estimates. Importantly, most of this waste is not from Amazon's own retail business, but rather the unwanted stock from some of the thousands of smaller organizations that use Amazon as a retail platform and distributor. The waste generated by financial accounting is a systemic problem. The low cost of landfill disposal is another example of how the now well-recognized failure of financial accounts to capture negative environmental consequences. Yeah. That waste is a negative externality they don't care about. They just write it off as a tax write-off. That needs to change. They don't care how old a laptop is. If a poor kid doesn't have one, it makes a huge difference. Yeah, exactly right. That is exactly right. However, in the case of waste disposal, it is not necessarily that alternatives to landfill or recycling cost more. Rather, the associated costs, such as the markets for reuse, are unknown and so difficult to include within financial accounts. So a part of this is that, the policies, we need to ensure that everything gets recycled, and we need to have research because some things are difficult to recycle. The government needs to fund the research and make sure that the ability is there to recycle everything. We also need to start. This is my environmental policies, that we need to start shifting our policies so that we ensure that when stuff is made, that it is made modular and universal so that they're easy to upgrade, fix, and so on, but also so that they can be easily recycled. It has to be an inherent part of how we manufacture things, making sure they can be recycled and repaired to reduce waste. Accounting in a circular economy. Okay, we should encourage a transition from a linear to more circular economy in which resources are reused and the need for a landfill largely eliminated. Yep, exactly. To do this, we must begin to understand the financial costs associated with recycling and reuse, how objects retain some value beyond an individual organizational context, and how this value might be reported within accounts. We need to envisage a system of accounting for circularity. Okay, yep, good concepts. And what I also say is that every single company that makes a product, they need to ensure that there is a recycling path for that product, or they should not make it. It cannot be recycled, it should not be made, period. And not only that, but they should also provide the provide the information to allow for recycling. So like if you have clothes, we need to know exactly, what chemicals were used in making those clothes, what materials were used with, what type of wool, how to recycle it, and even go so far as to provide an automated blueprint for how to tear the thing apart, like computers, how to tear apart, like what type of screws are used, what are the materials in those screws, how the board is made, what type of solder, what type of conformal coating is used, so that when we create an automated process to recycle it, we can rip it apart and know exactly what to deal with each of the parts. Cannot be recycled, that should not be made, period. Accounting for circularity will inevitably require organizations to produce social and environmental reports in addition to financial accounts, and a recognition that organizations cannot become circular on their own. Accounting in a circular economy requires collaborative accounts between organizations that transcend traditional boundaries and extend across supply chains to consider value in production and consumption systems. Yes, that's exactly right. We need a lot more integrated access to data between companies, so that when, like, if you if you have a shirt like this, you should be able to go to the website, click on it, and figure out where each part of that thing was made and what chemicals and where the materials come from and all that sort of stuff. Through these accounts, we can begin to make waste visible, identify ecological limits to consumption, and challenge those organizations and organizational practices that test those limits. In the case of Amazon, this might involve both the platform, Amazon itself, and its sellers collaborating on publicly available accounts that capture the material value of excess stock. Efforts to account for the material flow within our production and consumption system are being pursued in Scotland, where I work, and the Amazon warehouse is located, is leading the way. This week, Zero Waste Scotland publicized its report, which found that the total weight of resources used in 2017 by individual Scots, 18.4 metric tons, was more than double predicted sustainable levels, 8 tons. Work is still required to understand the contribution of organizational practices to this national material flow. So yeah, part of this is getting rid of planned obsolescence and making sure everything can be recycled. And my policies go over all that. Making sure that when something is made, that it is made to be upgradable and fixable and recyclable, but also so that when something is made, that it should be made to last for as long as possible, so that we don't have to throw it away, so we don't have to recycle it. Scotland's proposed circular economy bill, including mandatory reporting of business waste, was put on hold indefinitely in light of the pandemic. However, the Amazon warehouse expose reinforces that accounting for waste should be put back on the legislative agenda. All right, there you go. That's insanity. All right. So I've got my 2 hours. The wife's gonna be home soon. Nope, no clicking. All right, any last minute questions, comments, or suggestions before we call this a day? A happy Saturday, everyone. Yeah, no, thank you for stopping by. I really appreciate that. I know people are busy, especially in the summer. So thanks for stopping by and gifting me with your time. I really do appreciate that. And again, I'll end up posting this to all the stuff that I covered today on Reddit, and it'll also be on Discord as well. So if you want to get access to it, I also post it to Facebook and all the other pages where I announce my my stream is going live. So if you want to see everything we went over, it'll be in there. It's also on YouTube as well. I think I don't always do this because I've just kind of started doing this. I'll be posting that list of links and stuff and the link to Reddit on the YouTube video as well, since we can't post stuff here on Twitch. All right, so yeah, I'll definitely tell them hi for you. Thank you. So everyone, have a great weekend. Stay COVID free, and then again, I'm on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central, and Saturdays at 3 Central. So everyone have a great weekend and week, and we will see you guys later. Bye.
Just me and you, let's make up all the rules. Count to 10 and watch the stars turn